Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all really much. Let's go ahead and begin. We are back. We were gone for about a week. Estuvimos alejados por una semana aproximadamente, pero ya estamos de regreso. Estaba un poco enfermo. Gracias. I was a little bit sick, but we are back. Waiting for the President of Mexico to begin Tuesday, 14th of March. Thank you to all our special invites: Eric Suarez, Michelle Lopez, Michael Lopez, Arturo Solís, Jocelyn Velázquez, Lorena Salazar, Gilbert ESP, Daniel Andrade y Carlos Córdoba. Gracias, thank you all. And of course, if any of you can and will and would want to assist the channel, all the links are in the description. Los links están en la descripción. Aquellos que gusten puedan y les sea posible apoyar al canal. Gracias. All right, here we go. Good morning. So today is Tuesday, and as we do it as from a long time ago, we inform about the health situation, the pulse of health in the country. So we'll begin, and finishing that, we'll be heading towards the questioning. With your permission, Mr. President, once again, good morning to all of you. Today in El Pulso de la Salud, we are informing you what is the state of the COVID-19 of a week with down numbers. According to the communicators, this will be communicated by the Subsecretary López-Gatell, and Ruedo will be telling you about the IMSS Bienestar 2023 to tend to the people without Social Security. We'll also be speaking about the specialists and medics in 2023, the retired medical staff that will assist to combat the lack of specialty in Mexico, and the results of analysis in Hidalgo as well. And finally, in response to the reporter, Soedo will inform about the traditional medicine that has been going on in the country. With your permission, Mr. Cosés, Dr. Cosés, Director of IMSS, good morning to all. I'll inform briefly about the COVID situation in Mexico. As we have commented since it started 2023, 11 weeks before that, we've had a period of reduction of the transmission of the SARS-CoV-2, and in the last few weeks, this reduction occurs at a rate of speed of a minor than it did in the first few weeks. And then we can see this right in the middle of the country, 6 entities of the states here we have a reduction of minor parameters of the transmission. Hospitalization has been maintained in a low fulfillment, but with, of course, 1% for beds critical and 5% regular or normal watch. Mortality has maintained at a low. It's been minor in the last few days, but it's also maintaining in the historic low since the beginning of the pandemic. We are still in vaccine with the children of 2 to 5 years old. With your permission, Mr. President, good morning to everybody. Dr. Lopez Gatzel. We're going to be informing about the EAMS Bienestar, this institution of the fourth transformation for the medical transformation for the people that don't have the Social Security. We've spoken along these last few months and years about one of the great situations that we have of the need of specialty medics that we have in the country since a long time ago. A lot less medical staff had been formed since the beginning. So in that case, what happened was less contracting or less hiring of doctor staff. And now we want to show you one of the last supervisions that we've had of last week. You can see what we've commented on how the situation was with the plazas or the locations that medics wanted to do their medical specialties. In 2019, there was 4,637 spots of paramedics in residencies of EAMS. For this year, there was 9,040 here on the green line, and as you can see, we've advanced twice as much, and the ones that would come in before, it was 3,960 since 2019, and in this year we have 5,600. The difference there is that in this case, in the process of recruiting that was being handled since last week, known as DRAT, we offered the vacancies of the IMSS, Social Security, ordinary Social Security, and for the first time, we came out to offer positions in the IMSS Bienestar, which is one of the first results of the project. We managed to get 634 specialist medics for IMSS Bienestar, not for the program, but for the new public decentralized organ. There were these different specialties: regular medics 114, anesthesia 108, gynecology 94, urgency or EMS 81, surgery, general surgery 54, pediatrics 36, traumatology, orthopedics 34, internal medicine 21, and all different ones. Next one, one of the greatest elements of this process is the fact that we are incorporating family medics, this specialty that through a long time it's been the important managed that in the first levels the health centers, it's been the backbone for it. And it used to be that the medics, general medics, were being asked to tend to specialties. Now that we're looking for is that in the first level of pensions, that there are family medics. As you know, they are medics that tend to elderly, regular aged people, average aged people, or even children. They have a specialty that allows them to be there throughout the whole cycle, vital cycle, where control of sicknesses, measurements to prevent sicknesses. Now we have, in the first level of attention, family medics, as well as in IMSS Bienestar. Next one is the total of the different strategies that we are undertaking in the last few months, with the ones that we have 4,721 special medics, including the residencies in the rotation of last year. They get divided in the 1,232 specialists hired due to the job fairs that we've had since August of last year, 610 specialists in the Cuban agreement that we had, and the great news on that is that we're going to be able to increase these numbers of Cuban medics to double, with more than 600 or 1,200 medics from Cuba, 188 that were included in the job fairs that we had in April, and of course the last year resident medics that have basic knowledge, that are also in different hospitals helping out, 232 of IMSS Bienestar, and now with the 634 specialists that are being added to this recruitment on time. The next one is the distribution with the different strategies of each one of the states. You can see it's for one state, and for the states that are already in process of the agreements with IMSS Bienestar, and that you will see incremented importantly in the number of specialties from Michoacan to state of Morelos. And even so, we need to generate other strategies, and we are announcing as follows. It is a job fair that we're going to be doing for the retired medic staff in Social Security. In IMSS are more than 27,000 specialty medics that have retired along the years. 287 of those are minor or have less than 55 years old. More than 9,000 are between 56 and 65 years old. More than 13,000 are 66 and 75 years old. And 3,000, almost 4,000 that have 76 years or older. In this modality, they're going to have the offering to reincorporate to IMSS Bienestar, as long as they are part of Part B of the Constitution. What does this mean? This means that they're going to be able to have their retirement money without renouncing to it or putting it on hold. And at the same time, they're going to be able to take their spot in external medicine, even surgeries, or even take on different jobs. This will start. This is going to start in May, and I know that we're going to have a lot of experienced people added to that, so that they can assist on the IMSS and the health secretary, where we were lacking with a lot of medical staff. The details, we're going to put it medicosespecialistas.gov.mx is where we're going to be putting the details of that. Next one is the job fair that we have. There's the page medicosespecialistas.gov.mx, and when it comes to IMSS Bienestar in Hidalgo, last week we were there with Governor Julio Menchaca, Dr. Jorge Alcocer, presenting these results what we were doing in Hidalgo there, and some of the results of that, of the visitings that we had. We have 7 different hospitals, one in communitarian section, the other one is the maternity hospital in Pachuca de Soto, as well as a great and important number of units of first class that were visited. Then in Hidalgo we had 620 beds that are ready to go. You can see as well that we have a lot of needs, and when it comes to operating rooms that are not working, and a lot of equipment to sterilize that is also not in working order, and that all this derives from the interruption of the services, whether it's for surgeries, and also comes from the consultation. In the state of Hidalgo, Governor Menchaca undertook a study with the Secretary of Health about the quality of the water in the hospitals that will be presenting next, because they found that there is practically in any hospital standards about the quality of the water that is being consumed there. So we have a great situation that we need to tend to urgently in Hidalgo. And finally, in this end, we have a necessity of 4,173 professionals of health. Among them are 1,021 specialty medics, 1,900 nurses, 349 paramedics, and we also found the need to do 65 actions of bettering in the hospitals, meaning whether it was permealizing and covering the roofs to avoid leaks, and also to put a lot of intensive care units ready, prenatal, urgency, EMS rooms, and about the lack or necessity of substitution of the medical equipment. We found that there is 8,020 equipment that we need, amongst monitors, vital sign monitors, beds, red vehicles for the urgency, semi-heating, beds and units for the babies, and a lot more that are fundamental so we can give a great attention, a first-class attention for a lot of people that and children that are in need. Refrigerators, weights. We have the average budget that we would need to lift this health system in the different concepts. The biggest one being, of course, the location where we need personnel, whether it's general medics and specialists, nurses and paramedic personnel, as well the lack of equipment and infrastructure. So we appreciate the trust of Governor Menchaca that we arrived to the agreement and the job that he needs to do, and we have his trust to add this state as one more of the states that has been taken care of. That is all on my part. With your permission, Mr. President, I would like to remind you all that thanks to the traditional medicine, humanity has managed to survive and confront what has always been a menace of the spiritual and physical well-being, their sickness and its death. This version, it expresses itself in the origin, unveils the causes, and also unveils how a community can fight it. The ancestral medical knowledge has been funded in a theoretical, practical, through viewing and experimentation, starting from the exact importation of the plays that some individuals introduce with their own experience. This knowledge, ancestral knowledge, expresses itself in a conjoinment, ideas, concepts, perceptions, structured in a system, a symbolical system that offers the theology, the description, and a complete complex methodology that allows the diagnostics and the overseeing the strategies of curation. I thank Mr. Regino Lopez, Dr. Regino Lopez, member of the Indigenous Peoples, and Dr. Berta Dimas for your assistance in the elaboration of this informational notes. In response to the questioning about the reporter Obeso, we are informing you now that Master Zoe and myself. What am I informing you? Well, the government of Mexico, through the Institute of the Indigenous People, is realizing some actions focused to the implementation of health, communitary health, and the traditional medicine in the communities of the indigenous communities and Afro-American in the country, confirming with what was stipulated in the law of creation of INPI. As we can see in the first image, this law has an objective to promote and push, in coordination with the national system of health, the access to the people and the Afro-American indigenous as well, with pertinence of cultural, linguistic, and generic, without discrimination at all. It recognizes and includes the traditional medicine in this health system, a public health system, fertilize the medicine in the traditional way of doing things with the objective to add the health system of the cultural way, in a cultural way, through herbalism and traditional practices of the indigenous people, and include them in the system and promote in collaboration with the communities, spreading and the preservation of the traditional medicine. You know that we've developed the program for the well-being of the indigenous people, PROVIPI, that establishes the promotion of the cultural patrimony, as is the traditional medicine and the communication of indigenous people, of projects of traditional medicine for the communitary people, establishing rehabilitation, equip spaces for the practicing, the teaching, the exercising of medicine, traditional medicine, and the promotion of the communitarian health. There are also being established some botanic green areas and a medicinal, some herbal that are in Oaxaca, and some already been created. The promotion and expression of this traditional medical ways of working are being established. In this other chart, you can see the development of the indigenous people. There exists actions focused in the communitarian health and the promotion of the traditional medicine in the communities of the country, and you can see 13 of them, which names I can't see because of time and of the writing itself. Next one. In this administration, through the program of well-being of the people, indigenous people, we have established a investment of 28.3 million pesos to help out 164 projects of the traditional medicine, and we've backed up 256 promoters, community promoters, in 24 different entities, federal entities. And the next one, is part of the integration and formation of the personnel, we've assisted 121 promoters, 29 promoters, with an investment of 10,600,000 Mexican pesos, so that they can complete prevention actions and communication with the communities. And finally, examples that we've completed, some are the medical hospital, traditional medical hospital, a pride of the Oaxacan people, that when you see the doctors there in the region, and it also assists the knowledge, the ancestral knowledge of the traditional medicine, as well as 2 health centers in Concordia and Camalote, of municipio de Ayutla, municipality of Guerrero. The objective for that is, of course, clear: to contribute with the practice and the fortifying of the traditional medicine in teams with it accompanied with Secretary of Health. If we can see this section here, one of the pillars of the attention modeling that we are using, of the new way of working that we have published in the Federation page, is the community action. This action that has different elements, what we're looking for is to establish a vinculation in between the communities and the attention of the medical services. Right here we need to clarify.
La lógica comunitaria también en los centros urbanos, en los centros de trabajo, en los barrios, en las propias colonias. Y se trata de un trabajo que tiene tres características. Es voluntario, es organizado, hay una serie de mecanismos de organización y es activa en la incidencia de los diferentes factores que afectan a la salud, tanto de las personas, de las familias y de la propia comunidad.
Sorry about that. Yes, so it is something that we need to promote, and we need to be able to have knowledge on the health regularity of the people, and it's integrated as well with more than 1,300 health members, committees of health, and more than 1,000 birth parteras or birth assisters. On the next one, we can see one of the elements for the traditional medicine. We are starting this with the 753 traditional medics with their ancestral knowledge of medicine. They are part of the local system and communitarian health system that can assist the patients to the health assistance when they are showing any signs. This also falls into a hospital that is also emblematic in Nayarit that includes the health units for these attentions, and it's about traditional medics, sobadores, hueseros, and other activities. And also, in particular, in the parteria, where the assistance of birth, we have thousands of them that are voluntarily assisting with us, promote the use of anti-conceptional ways of medicine. They promote all the medical consultations that must be done before the birth of a child, and they foment and include all the elements of the birth. They also have low-risk births. They promote the maternal lactancy. And in health themes is a great and important element. In a lot of the cases, aside from the infirmary, the birth assisting person is the linguistic cultural connection that we have with the peoples. They also speak the language, and they also have a better way of communicating with the people there. In one case, in 2022, there was 4,200 births that represent 50% of the IMSS Bienestar. And finally, an element that we are also incorporating to the system is the community action, that is the participation of the committees of health, committees of 8 people that are interested in the health of the communities and completes different activities such as home visiting, information, meetings, actions for the environment, healing, national health meetings, and they assist in many other ways of assisting the system, that they are being organized for any situation that could derive of any major sickness that could happen there. And of course, this never existed before in the health systems of the governments of the states, and therefore we have been conforming health committees so that we can take this into realization with a lot of teams of cleaning and obtaining a lot of medical instruments or medicine. As you can see, we've installed a total of 2,177 health committees, thousands of voluntaries that are being added, 20,000 visits at home that have been done, and more than 54,000 informative sessions. In the last one, you have the global results, as well as the verification on the supply managing and bringing in a lot of the 98% that has been done already. All right, let's start with you. First row. Thank you, Mr. President. Nancy Rodriguez from Oro Sólido de Empuje Migrante. So, Mr. President, yesterday with the reunion that you had with the consuls in Washington, it was known that every week there's going to be an information section that I managed to speak with Orlando Consul Juan Sabines. He says that you're going to be distributing some information packets and speaking in the consular section, that you're going to be visiting media outlets. I would like to send some messages to the migrant friends, because it's about to inform them in the U.S. so that they know what is being done here in Mexico. And in this same subject, Mr. President, I have two situations of two counselors or consul locations. The new counselor in Colorado from Oaxaca got there in November, and they tell me in Denver that they're really happy because immediately he opened the council, invited them to celebrate a lot of festivities, such as the 24th of February, but obviously there's a very conscious community. There are also Mexicans that have media, news outlets, radio stations, and they started hitting this new consulate member that they're really bidding him because he has another vision closer to the people. This is on one end. On the other end, amongst these examples, for example, you have the consulate of New York. I'm not sure if you knew. Now, in the Garcia Luna trial, this consulate has spoken and has traits. He sent some people for him to be able to have some spots in Garcia Luna trial. In New York consulate is very strong. a reporter from Jesus of Proceso, and he told the consulate, arrogant, and you're sending people, and we're spending all day in the morning to be able to get into the trial, and counsel sent people so he can go into the trial. Once that was known, he stopped doing it. So with this type of situations about these two consulates, and with what was known yesterday, what is the possibility that this information is being given out every 8 days with the chancellery, that we can inform our migrant brothers about this, and if it's possible to meet these consulates, because let's remember they're consulates that most of the time we don't even know their faces. As you know, last year I wasn't allowed to go in of the reunion of the consulates. It was really closed in. It's a bureaucracy that it's still operating. And they also, of course, they can come and inform this, for example, this new Denver consulate, and they can feel a backing from their government. And on another hand, there's some migrant friends in California that were unfortunately taken out, abused by some supposed investors in Jalisco, and it's something very dramatic that periodically these Jalisco people to ask them for money to invest in Mexico in realty, and they took them out for the majority for $1 million pesos. Now it turns out that who did that committed suicide, and they can't come to Mexico. They don't know how to get their money back. We're talking about more than 600 migrants in the US, and above all, these pictures of this supposed suicide. How do they get these pictures bleeding out? If you can any assistance to all these people. So just imagine there's some that are already old, and $1 million pesos for all of them is a lot. And if you want to speak about that, please. We are backing, in this case, we're going to ask the attention of migrants, of Secretary of External Relations, to tend to this case. You've given us now more information, and you can leave your information here so we can establish communication with them, if it's okay with you, of course. I'm sorry. And the person that supposedly committed suicide, his name is Luis Osvaldo Espinosa, and he's really close with politicians in Jalisco, and he's the one that supposedly committed suicide. Jesus, if you have the video that surely we saw in Washington, so you can all see what's been done in Mexico to combat narco trafficking, the drug consumption, the way that We are combating corruption, impunity, because it's really important that we need to inform the people. We were speaking about amongst the wave of manipulation, more or less. We have to be informing the people. And one of the few spaces that we do have to do that is this conference. So we need to take advantage of it to inform. We have the fortune that this conference has been seen by a lot of people, a lot of Mexicans. They even see it in the U.S., paisans in the U.S. So let's see if we can transmit this video that surely was known in the U.S. Looking for it? And Mr. President, on another hand, Dr. Beatriz Zapata Rendon is a scientific investigator from the Petroleum Institute, and now that she arrived in 2018, she is a scientific specialist of 20 years, and she denounced a corruption in that institute. She suffered labor attacks. She gets suspended for 3 weeks, 1 month. She doesn't get paid. And now she doesn't want the government, your government, to end so that she can't get justice. She's denounced with a ethical committee and conflict of interest in the Institute of Petroleum Energy Institute as well. She's presented claims and public functions, and she has not received any information. If it's possible as well that she can assist for this person so they can stop attacking her, because she's a scientific investigator and they don't pay her for up to a month with a lot of attacks against her. And also, on another hand, and Mr. Rogelio Hernandez Reyes, he's a alma loya security guard in jail. He wrote this memoirs in Almoloya book, and he also suffered torture. He also suffered attacks. He made some complaints, but has not received any assistance. He also has in this book stories with El Chapo, and I will also know if you can assist him so that his claims are being resolved. And I'll leave the book because he sends it directly to you.
Muy bien, pues mira, el jueves va a estar aquí.
So on Wednesday, Rocío Nale will be arriving, Secretary of Energy, as well as Director of Pemex. And Doctora can come and she can wait with us so she can speak with Rocío. And even if it's possible that you can establish communication so we can get that taken care of. And about the book, we'll see about it in the denouncement with Rosa Isela Rodriguez. The book is dedicated for you, and there are memoirs of talks with Chapo, and he was even present in one of the situations of the escapes
México y Estados Unidos son naciones que comparten una historia y frontera en común, que constituye la base de una sólida relación bilateral, la cual ha privilegiado el interés para atender los problemas que afectan a ambos países.
Narco-trafficking is a situation that produces a lot of earnings that allows them to corrupt any locations of drugs and weapons that generate deaths and violence in both countries. Federal government attends the causes that originate the violence with 14 social programs, amongst some of them that include the violence, Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro, scholarships for basic education in Benito Juárez, from junior high to high school, mothers of working families, and Sembrando Vida, protection for well-being, amongst others, so that you can guarantee education, health, and security, food security in the most necessity of locations. Both nations have implemented the next mechanisms of cooperation, certifications against drugs, unilateral procedures of attacking the pandemic way of the drugs to certify our country in the fighting of the production and trafficking of drugs. The Mérida Initiative, signed in 2008, there was a subject that included a bilateral results, and the quick success of this also affected the narco selling in the streets and among the young. And in this way, now we got the Bicentenario Entendimiento that represents a change in the paradigm of a way of working with the other country, the US and Canada, that is based in mutual respect and trust and responsibility that is shared in between the countries. In this sense, the Mexican government in the beginning of the administration maintains the agreement to ensure the peace in the peoples through permanent works with the institutions in charge of the public security, obtaining a minimization, a generalized minimization of the equipment and the incrementation of seizures and a lot of equipment that has been derived from narco-trafficking. Without the understanding of Bicentenario agreements represents an action for the Mexican authorities. With these actions, it's also being prevented that the criminal organizations can attack the people and that the delinquents can go through trial. And the effort to cut the weapons and drug trafficking is shared by the different institutions of security in Mexico, each one of them in their own realm. For example, National Guard established 3 different barriers of contention in all the country, and not only in the north, but they're established in 55 military outposts with 1,600 elements. And another way, we are also guarding the airways. Aerial interceptions prevents any illegal flying, and the chemical precursors that come from Asia as well. We've been attacking that from 4 to 72 different locations that are being used for synthetic drugs. Additionally, in 2021, for March, the Customs Office and their information relays to a control of containment of drugs and weapons seizures that we've been able to take out of the streets, and this allows us of an increment of a merchandise capability, as well as the use of gamma rays and X-rays for finding any hidden items. The naval assistance, 20 ports are being watched out for port security, and 97 ports of the commands. In the results, in this administration, with a period similar to Felipe Calderón and Peña Nieto, as well as 16 months before and after of this being implemented, called Bicentenario Understanding, known that fentanyl is the synthetic drug that is now causing more damage to health of people. The seizures of this is now in administration having more than 1,049%. In respect to the 2014-2018 period, there are no records for the seizures of this drug in the years prior to 2014. Methamphetamine seizures from December 2018 to March 2023 increased in 128% with relation to the ones made from 2008 and 2012, and 92% compared to the 2014-2018 period. Seizures, cocaine seizures during the administration registered an increase of 628% compared to the made of 2008 and 2012, and 147% compared to the 2014-2018 period. The disabling of clandestine laboratories from December 18 to March 2023 increased 58% compared to the period 2008-2012, and 153% more compared to 2014-2018, to stop the production of synthetic drugs and fentanyl in coordination with COPEFRIS and other regulatory agencies. A series of innovative regulations have been put into place to strengthen the prosecution precursor in Mexico. In 2021, a list of 72 previously inaugurated dual substances were not published before. In 2022, a digital registration of surveillance was designed and launched to track the use of precursors in the country by the national industry in order to prevent diversions to the organized crime. As a result of these actions, in 19 to 2022, 1,256 tons of chemical precursors have been seized and 4.4 million units of controlled substances. Arrested people linked to organized crime that allowed to attack the criminal webs in a point shows up to 2023 a known increment of 59% respect to 2018-2012, and of 136% compared to 14 and 18 period. One notable achievement is a arrest of important targets as a result of intelligence of work, which is 1,400% higher than the ones registered in 2008-12, and 137% higher when compared to the 14 and 18 period. With sticking out the innovation and detention of 22 leaders and generators of violence that are among 7 members of Pacifico Cartel, 6 from Jalisco Nueva Generación. And in respect to the seizure of weaponry in 2018 to March 2023, there is an increased by 65% compared to the 2014-2018 period, including the seizures of .50 caliber weapons that included an increase of 61% in our administration. However, 70% of homicides in Mexico continue to be committed with weapons from the US. And therefore, it is fundamental to fortify the communication supervision mechanisms on both ends of the countries. In the last mile to stop a flow of weapons in the US to Mexico, in this sense, if only the traffic in high-powered weapons was controlled, such as .50 caliber, assault weaponry, among other, with just this, the criminal organizations would be weakened, they would not confront the authorities, and it would be easier to act against them. The money obtained by the selling of the drugs in that country allows this criminal organization for weapons and straighten their criminal strategy in Mexico, which empowers them to cause all deaths. This becomes a continuous cycle to bilateral agreements. Notwithstanding Mexico's concern limited to drugs and trafficking of drugs in order to work with the United States, the flow of arms from the United States has increased significantly. Therefore, based on shared responsibility, we believe that the United States government has the ability to increase its actions and reach the agreements that we've reached with the understanding of Bicentenario agreements. Increase of arms is the only indicator we have to appreciate the actions taken to prevent the flow to our country, since there is no mechanism that information in respect to the actions that are taken in the U.S. to reduce the criminal and health problem and criminal problems that we have in that country. It should be noted that the results obtained in the government of Mexico are made public and can be consulted on the official pages of the Executive Secretariat of the National Public Secretary System and the National Center of Analysis and Information to Combat Crime. In addition to the above, the Executive, through Security Cabinet, publishes weekly reports of the obtained in public security, providing details on the seizures of drugs, arms, vehicles, real estate, cash, laboratories, arrests, and more. Mexico is respectful of the sovereignty and actions occurred out of the U.S. government to reduce the consumption and the combating trafficking of drugs. Therefore, it is not usually questioning results in accordance with the principles of no interference in external policy. For this reason, and in order to prevent the efforts made to reinforce the efforts made of Mexico and the U.S. in the bicentennial framework, Mexico proposes that we strengthen the communication, information exchange, and results in order to gather attainment of specific and concrete actions that prove security for both inhabitants in both ends. Well, that was good information, huh? Thank you, Mr. President. So, your opinion about these actions of these consulate, the new one, Pavel Melendez Cruz in Colorado, and in contrast with the one in New York, Jorge Islas. And to finish, there is a Mexican, very humble, from Chalco, in Estado de Mexico. She is Emma Bustamante Uriostegui. She solicited a humanitarian visa to fly and see his elderly brother that has Alzheimer and got COVID in the U.S. because she can't travel, of course. And she said that she got an appointment for September 2024. So aside from that, she took forever to get her passport. How's this for 2024? And her sister is really sick. I'm not sure if there's a possibility that we can get her humanitarian visa so she can go see her sister. We'll see about the visa, humanitarian visa, so she can get there as soon as possible. And about the consulates, there are criteria. So if I know Pavel, I know he is a very compromised person because he's been working with the people for a long time, all his family. He is from the ism of Tehuantepec, and surely he found himself with a lot of paisans, and he's welcomed. I don't have any opinion about the other council. We are looking for that they all do and accomplish of their responsibilities, speaking in general, to all the consulates. Marcelo is actually taking care of that the consulates assist the people, and in the case in the councils and ambassadors with a career, they've acted generally in a professional way in a long time. Mexico has a very good team in external services, a very good tradition, diplomatical tradition. And in the case of the consulates that are in the U.S., they're attending to the migrants, some more, some less, but I do have knowledge of consulates that are carrying in their car car seats, baby car seats, because the consulates do it and they have it in their own cars. Marcelo could explain a little better on this. And we're going to try that each time the consulate service gets tended to the right way and that they do their job correctly, that they're not abused, of course, the people. And so they feel all our solidarity, that they're not alone, the people there. They have the backing of all Mexicans and in the governments.
Gracias, presidente. Esteban Durán, Vanguardia de Veracruz. Presidente, ante los últimos
Mr. President, with the latest situations where there's a lot of impartial media, some objective, and it was also brought up with the Genaro Luna trial. It's mentioned that Mexico has lost in that sense, but there's been a polarization that Mexico is divided in two, where there's been a lot of talks, doubts, and judicial authorities have been put into a precarious location and more. Mr. President, wouldn't it be a way that you can do to the different social sectors so that in that sense there's not a lot of polarization? And there can be objectivity, and in either way there can be explained in the judicial realm, and that millions of Mexicans wouldn't have this exchange as has been happening with like these marches, like the one on Sunday, that the soldiers have been pushed out of their power to be able to respond to the organized crime, and in this way they're not being abused. Maybe a pact would be to have the compromise, but just a unity to all sectors, to political sector, entrepreneur sector. That would be my first question. Well, we have an alliance with the people. We don't have any problem with the people. There's a sector, an elite, that defends the old regimen of corruption, injustices, privileges. They're the ones that are not happy, but this is normal as well. Why would we want everybody to think the same way? That's not democracy. We have to accept, in a way, that there are people that have a way of thinking, a way of being, and this, of course, doesn't mean polarization or anything like that. I would even say to them that we need to celebrate that people are manifesting themselves, that the ones on Sunday that they marched get respected, the rights, manifestation rights, free expression, the right to disagree, to defend their causes. In a dictatorship, you couldn't do that. They couldn't even speak out. Just imagine that in a dictatorship, there'd be insults allowed to the authority, as it's done every day to me, and nothing happens. What we need to understand here is that we are living in, fortunately, a transformation process. Ever since I can remember, I've spoken about 3 different transformations in the history of our country. Independence, when these rebel Hidalgo and Morelos, humanitarian, humanists, they fought so that slavery could be abolished and we can live in a society where there's equality. And that's why Hidalgo proclaimed the abolition of slavery, but that the conservatives didn't forget that, and they killed him and maintained his head 10 years in Plaza of Guanajuato Plaza. They exhibited his head for 10 years as punishments.
No solo porque llamó al pueblo de México a luchar por la independencia. Sobre todo,
not only did he call in for the Mexican people to fight, not only for that he was punished, but he
no se lo perdonaron.
Asked for the abolition of slavery, and he wasn't forgiven for that. And Morelos wanted equality from his national sentiments, that indigenous would be moderates and the opulence, that the peasant's salary would minimize, and that the sons of the rich could be assisted, and that there are tribunal locations that assist of the weak. That was Morelos. And then the transformation that meant the reform movements led by Juarez, that led the conservatives to oppose. And once they were defeated, they would go out and look for Maximilian to establish an empire. That's what conservatives did. We were invaded. French.
El ejército más poderoso de ese entonces en el mundo.
In the world, the strongest army, French army, and Juarez resisted, and Republic was reestablished, and the foreign people were pushed out, and the second independence of Mexico was generated. And then the revolution, because the oligarchy owned the country, enslaved the people. Porfirio Diaz maintained himself 34 years in the presidency. Well, 30 years him and his compadre Manuel González, and that's what the revolution brought. 3 different transformations. And now, in a pacific way, without violence, we're doing the 4th transformation. So it's natural, of course, that there is resistance. But we need to celebrate. I repeat that this change is provided in guaranteeing liberties without violence. There are, of course, a campaign of the opposing members against us, but as there is an advancement in the people's minds, as we know, as revolution of the conscience, the mechanisms don't work, the control mechanisms don't work anymore of the empowered. Media sectors are not believed anymore. Because it's obvious that they dedicated themselves to legitimize abuses, to legitimize corruption, to legitimize the injustices, to be quiet against classist discrimination. And people know that López Dóriga, they know who Ciro is, they know who is Loret de Mola. Who's going to believe Loret de Mola now if he's used the noble job to enrich himself, and he hasn't even cleared out his relation with Garcia Luna and his luxury apartments that you guys don't have. Majority of Mexicans don't have them. Journalism is really lucrative. They get paid well. It's one of the most lucrative companies that there is. No. The majority of journalists, people that live honorably, very few of them that for getting into service of the corrupt, they receive, of course, awards, extravagant awards. They have yachts, apartments in the U.S. They earn a lot. This guy, Loret, probably earns $1 million, $1.5 million per month. 10 times more than the president of Mexico. The other one, Jorge Ramos, probably 50 times more than I. So it's understandable. It's not for them to get mad. That one day, yes, and then the other one as well. They're attacking me. And that they're defending Garcia Luna and Calderon, and defending Fox or X González. Because they are the ones that are backing them up. And they're in agreement. It's a relation of complicity. But that, of course, doesn't affect us. In the contrary, when will we know that Secretary of Security of Felipe Calderon was allied to a group of narco-trafficking? When would we have known that this guy was going to be judged, and Felipe Calderon comes out to defend him? Don't you have Calderon's declaration? It's really important here. Because a tribunal in the U.S. judges him. And Calderon says, well, I don't believe them. There's no proof. There's no evidence. Hopefully that he would be able to assist and explain what Garcia Luna would do in his governments. Why doesn't he consider that there's no evidence? And that would give an explanation to the people of Mexico, and that he would defend openly to Garcia Luna. He could even present a denouncement against the U.S. authorities that are judging him. Quixote would say, well, Cervantes, for dignity and liberty, anything could be at risk, even life. So when one has
la seguridad
the security
de que se es inocente,
that you're innocent,
no se debe de permitir
it should not be allowed
que nadie
that anyone
ponga en entredicho
questions
nuestra honestidad.
our honesty.
¿Qué es lo que debe de importar más?
Which is what needs to matter more than anything else. Honesty.
Entonces, si se hace un llamado que
so if there's a calling out for unity,
si ellos lo que quieren
what they want, really,
es seguir robando,
is to keep stealing.
Para decirlo con
to say it honestly,
claridad, quieren regresar por sus fueros.
Más que nada evitar las fricciones, presidente, los dimes y diretes, porque aquí
no, pero no son dimes y diretes, es una muy buena polémica, un buen debate. Es que antes no se trataban estos temas, todo se ocultó. Para decirlo con claridad, quieren regresar por sus fueros.
They want to return for their earnings.
No, pero no son dimes y diretes.
Well, it's not about talking.
Un buen debate.
It's a very good debate.
Es que antes
before
no se trataban estos temas.
These subjects weren't talked about. This all was hidden. There was a simulation policy, and public life in a democracy has to be even more public. To allow the dialogue, open dialogue, frank, honest debate. Doesn't matter if there's insults and excess, but that we can rejoice in freedom of speech and freedom of acting when it comes to the people and the progress of the nation, because that's what's.
¿Por qué es importante lo de García Luna? Para que no se repita, para que se purifique la vida pública, que no se siga.
That's what's at risk, at stake, so that the corruption is ended, that there's no impunity.
Esto es un legado.
This is a legacy here for new generations.
Esto es una transformación.
This is a transformation.
Antes, bueno, lo hemos dicho aquí muchas veces.
We've said it many times here.
Se pensaba que el corrupto era audaz.
The corrupt was smart.
Muy exitoso.
Very successful.
Había que seguir
and that
su ejemplo
you had to follow their footsteps
de cómo había logrado.
As to how it was achieved.
Decían colarse.
That they would infiltrate.
Ascendido,
and how they increased and how they became from poor to rich.
Y todo esto, desde luego,
and all this, of course,
a costillas del erario, con el sufrimiento de la gente, que le llegaba
from the people's money from the suffering of the people. What was there for the people? There's no money arriving to the people. Only when there was elections, they would spread out some food, construction material, chickens, ducks, pigs. They would give them, right? Only that in electoral times, and cash to purchase and buy the votes, to arrive to the posts and keep stealing. After they would purchase and bribe and buy the votes, people would go to ask them for something, to the municipalities, to the state governments, and they would even kick them out. What are you here to ask me for if I already gave you? Humiliating. And all this was about money. There's an election, and you will give out money. I remember an election in Zacatecas that a political party that I'm not going to mention, took money in suitcases for the purchasing of the votes. And these they were detected, they followed them. They go into this office. Guess what they did? So they don't leave any trace. They burnt the money. Smoke started to come out. So that when they arrived, the police arrived, there was no evidence. This is for the young people, of course. There's evidence how the election of '89 for the governor, there's a fox with a suitcase. Probably see it in there's a raccoon member. Raccoons are the ones searching for all this. So he sits on the portfolio, and the truck comes out and almost runs over people, but with the money. Yesterday, a party in the INE and all the media applauding because they gave the job back to one of the INE members that is 30 years there and 15 as public, a key functionary. You know how INE is untouchable? They give him a allowance, which is the same thing, and all his helpers, friends and associates applauding, and the information media, everybody celebrating, because it's been revindicated democracy, a person that has tolerated fraud. That's why he's there. Completely anti-democratic, but he belongs to the little party that ENE has been managing for a long time. And applauding that, giving it as a triumph, the first defeat of Plan B. Well, it fills me up with encouragement and pride to lose like that. They don't realize because they don't have any moral authority. What they want is money, power, because of power. Power only becomes a virtue when it comes to and is turned into the service for everybody. Power without benefiting the people is paraphernalia. It's fake. Corruption. That's why it said that if there's no conviction, then the power numbs the directors, and the dumb people turns them crazy.
Entonces, están en show todavía. Los que pensaron que iba a ser más de lo mismo. Que íbamos nosotros a simular que
they
íbamos
thought
a en el gato.
that we were going to be doing the same thing.
Las cosas en apariencia cambian para seguir igual.
That the changes in appearance change, but underneath everything is the same. Isn't that what they said on Sunday? 2008?
Decía, con salinitas.
Fox would say, with salinitas, not even to the restroom.
Y terminó.
And he ended up
abrazado con salinitas.
Hugging salinitas.
Y manteniendo la misma política.
And maintaining the same working structure. Everything where all the interest included, except the interest of the people. But that's why the debate is really good. Because I maintain that these fakers are not democratic. They are employees of oligarchy. They're not defending democracy. They defend the oligarchy. The government of the minority. The government of the rich. And democracy is the government of the people, is the government of all. That's what's at stake. That's what's on the deep end. And the rest is just a simulation. But it's good that all these things are being ventilated because it's really interesting. With all due respect, with the tribunal, I respect that. And personally, I have a lot of doubts in the verdict. I wanted to see what the prosecution had, videos, accounts, deposits, and none of that was shown. All was based in testimony of criminals confessed criminals that, by the way, the majority of them we captured in my government and extradited. You commented that the declaration was instrumentalized. Well, it's evident that in Mexico there's a clear persecution of mediatic and political search for my person, and it's almost personal from the government. Well, I'm thinking that in my good relations with Televisa and Azteca and Reforma and Universal, we are promoting a political persecution. Have you seen any questioning in Mexico's newspapers, radio, television, questioning to Felipe Calderón? Because maybe, since I'm in other things, maybe I don't realize. Reforma, for example, has done any reporting? Televisa has done any reporting? Washington Post, any news about Calderón and García Luna? New York Times? Wall Street Journal? And the U.S. TV? Anybody touches? Nothing.
Son las redes sociales.
Social networks.
Nada más. ¿Y eso?
Only them, and that's
no todos, porque con las redes hay
not all of them, because in the social network
diálogo permanente,
there's permanent dialogue
y debate,
and debates.
Muy bueno.
Very good stuff. Some in favor, some against.
Pero lo que tiene que ver
what has to do
con los medios convencionales,
with the conventional media.
¿Cómo es que le llaman, Jesús?
How is it that they call it the great press?
Además de influyente. No, sí, el cuarto poder, pero
aside from influencing, the fourth power.
No, tampoco.
No, not that.
No, la gran prensa, pues,
the great press. That's what they call it.
No hay nada.
There's nothing really.
En lo que a mí corresponde.
When it comes to me,
pues ¿qué persecución puede haber?
What type of persecution could there be? I mean,
si hubiese persecución,
if there was
ya hubiésemos presentado una denuncia
prosecution, we would have already presented a denouncement against the ex-president.
No lo hemos hecho porque
we haven't done it because
ya lo he explicado.
I explained it already.
Se le preguntó al pueblo.
People were asked,
y aunque muchos dijeron que sí,
and a lot of people said yes to open up a investigation. We didn't get enough votes
a la participación que exige la ley,
to the participation that the law requires, so that this inquiry was vinculant.
Que si
and I even said,
iniciaba un proceso,
if there was a process started on this survey, I was going to be against it, and I said it because I'm not thinking about persecuting anybody. I'm thinking about no repetition. The abuses, the excesses, abuses, that Mexico is free of corruption, which is what we're getting to do. That's where we're advancing. And some are bothered about it, but just imagine what we've been able to save for not allowing corruption. We're talking about billions of pesos. And with that, we've been able to finance the developments without being in deeper debt, without adding taxes, increasing taxes or combustible price, only applying the formula of zero corruption, zero impunity, with a government that is saving, because Mr. Calderón bought Peña Nieto an airplane, luxury airplane, that we haven't been able to sell, it's still in process of selling. But just imagine an airplane that, in accordance to the last value that we did on it, 100 million, 92 or 100 million dollars.
Nada más eso.
Just that.
Y el caso de García Luna es importante.
And the García Luna case, it's really important.
Y tiene mucho que ver con
it has a lot to do with the
el pensamiento
way of thinking
conservador
of the conservatives that is really authoritarian and violent.
Pensamiento y la acción.
Thinking and the action of the conservatives, trying to resolve everything at will, with force. All fights and declare war, and I'll finish them, I'll end them. And look what we got involved in.
Pero bueno, esperemos que García Luna.
Well, let's hope that García Luna can say something and do service to the country.
A pesar de los pesares.
Aside from everything.
Y que hable.
And to speak.
Porque también nos va a ayudar mucho.
Because it's really going to be helpful that El PAN stops asking us to align to the DEA. It's going to help us a lot. So legislators in the U.S. of the Republican Party are not establishing that DEA needs to come in. And even the U.S. Army to come in and fight narco-traffickers, considered terrorists, in an interventionist attitude, in violation of our sovereignty. It would be really good that García Luna would speak, that he would explain what his vinculation is with the U.S. authorities, and how is it that the U.S. agencies didn't realize that García Luna was working to the service of the cartels. How is it that they didn't realize? And why don't they open up an investigation about that in the U.S.?
quieren ahora echarnos la
Why
culpa
do
a
they
nosotros.
want to blame us now?
Sí, lo planteé. Sí, se
Yes,
los
I
dije
spoke about it.
a ellos, a los legisladores.
I told them about it.
¿Cómo no lo voy a plantear?
How am I not going to say anything?
Pues ellos pues tienen sus puntos de vista,
Well, they have their way of thinking,
pero nosotros lo
but
que
us,
sostenemos
what we sustain is
es de que no podemos permitir que
we
ningún
can't
gobierno
allow that
extranjero
any external governments
intervenga en asuntos que solo
interfere
corresponden a México.
to
Y que
deals
desde luego,
in
bueno, aquí
situations
está el
that
video, estamos cooperando
belong to Mexico.
y trabajando de
Here's the video, and
manera
that
coordinada.
we are working in a coordinated way,
No les vamos a dejar
but we're not going to let them
el mando del país,
move around in the country
ni
and
modo que la DEA
have the
sea la que
command,
decida en México,
and then DA would
como
decide
lo está planteando
what is done in Mexico
el presidente del PAN. ¿Por qué no pones otra vez?
as it's been planted
Miren lo
by
que
el
está
PAN president. Look at what
proponiendo
that
el
guy is
presidente del
proposing. PAN president,
que por cierto,
that, by the way,
este partido le daba dinero a García Luna.
this
El PAN
political
le daba
party would
dinero a
give money
García
to
Luna.
Garcia Luna.
Probado.
Proven.
Cuando estaba de presidente del PAN,
When president of
Gustavo
El PAN,
Madero.
Gustavo Madero, was there.
imagínense lo que está
Just imagine what
ese mártir. Gustavo Madero, su
Gustavo
abuelo,
Madero would be
bisabuelo,
there, his grandfather, great
de este
grandfather
hombre.
of this guy.
Pero miren, es que, contestándote a ti, ¿cuándo íbamos a ver esto?
When would we see this?
Si la característica de la derecha en México, la única doctrina de la
The only
derecha
doctrine of the right wing
es la hipocresía,
is hypocrisy.
su verdadera doctrina.
True
Entonces,
doctrine. So then,
todo lo escondían, todo era simulación.
everything was hidden, all was
Y ahora
simulation,
no.
and now
Ahora está brotando lo que realmente son.
all this is sticking out, what they really are.
Están saliendo sus falsedades.
All
como
their
los hongos
fakery are growing
después de
like
la
the
lluvia.
fungus is after
López
rain.
Obrador
López
debe
Obrador
reconocer su
needs to
rotundo
recognize
fracaso
his
en materia
major
de seguridad.
defeat in security,
Corregir y retomar
correct and retake
la necesaria
the necessity,
colaboración con la DEA
needy collaboration with the DEA
para combatir a los carteles del
to combat
narcotráfico
cartels of narco
que
trafficking
generan muertes, violencia
that
y
generate death,
tranquilidad
violence,
a las
and
familias mexicanas.
no peace to the Mexican people.
Esa es la recomendación.
That's the recommendation.
¿Por qué no nos dice
Why don't they say
cuál era el trato con García Luna?
what was the deal with Garcia
¿Por qué
Luna?
le daban dinero a García Luna?
Why would they give him money for?
Sí, pero hay
Yes,
ayer
but
hicieron una
there's
investigación
yesterday there's an investigation.
los de sin embargo.
The sin
Y
embargo
es más
people.
claro. Bueno, aquí está.
Well, it's here, but
Partido
the other
Acción
one's a
Nacional.
lot more clear. Acción Nacional party, political party.
Esto es lo que está documentado.
This is what's documented.
1.160.000 pesos.
1.1 million to
Que
this
es de
company
García Luna,
belonging to Garcia Luna.
legalmente.
Legally.
80% de las acciones
80%
son
of
de él
the
y el 20%
company belongs to him, and the other belongs to his wife.
Pero además, el presidente del PAN se atreve a decir en una entrevista,
Presidente del PAN says if he doesn't align himself
López Obrador a la DEA,
to the DA,
le va a pasar lo mismo
same thing's going to happen
que
to
a
him
García Luna.
than Garcia Luna.
Le contestaría yo como
I would answer him
se expresa a veces en mi estado, en mi
the way he expresses himself. Hay mojo. No mojo. Or bribe.
Maestro, ni que fuese yo Calderón.
I'm not Calderón.
Presidente, ahora que prácticamente
now that practically COVID was reduced, minimized, and the majority of the people have been vaccinated. Oh, hold on, give me just a second so we can finish this. This is a receipt. Compromising receipts. Shows that El PAN did pay to a company vinculated to Garcia Luna and his associates. There's the proof. This is judicial, the PAN document. And the company belongs to Garcia Luna. We take time and we repeat ourselves. It's because they say we already knew about this.
Están más cerca de la información y eso.
Yes, but this is for the people that are not as close to the information, and this about the information scarce that really manages to be told on the web. Because this you don't find in El Reforma, nor in Universal, nor in the Televisa reporting, nor the radio. What's the name of these big chains? Radio Fórmula, NBS. Ciro doesn't talk about this.
Ciro lo que saca es de que por unas expresiones de Manuel Bartlett le dio un infarto.
There's some expressions of Manuel Bartlett. He got a heart attack.
Afectada en la mina de pasta de concho, creo.
Because of a lady getting a heart attack in a mina de pasta. Which is not true, of course, but it doesn't matter. There's a good dialogue in between López Dóriga and Marín that also people don't know about that, where López Dóriga claims why he's coming out with Garcia Luna.
Sí, la tienes ahí. Es un buen diálogo, además de muy buen nivel.
It's a very good dialogue with nice level, very good managing of languages.
Gracias, presidente. Le comentaba que
Thank you, Mr. President. So, I was telling you about the COVID that succeeded and minimized. The people are going back to work in March, and in June, there's going to be some meetings Also, there's going to be another great event, Expo Oli in Villahermosa, Tabasco, that is looking at the fortification of Pemex, as well as the Petroleum Congress to realize and be in 15 and 16 of June in Campeche 21. And this, where the auto efficiency of the country, are you going to be there? Have you been invited? Are you going to point out what you've always said, that there's auto-efficiency and that Pemex is independent, and in this way Mexico can obtain the income that a long time was stolen. And another important meeting in 22 and 23, there's a convention of casinos in Santa Fe. You said in the beginning, mentioned that there was no authorization to open up any casinos. Nevertheless, these have been growing, and if anything, it's been an important way of work. It's been an organized crime way of working. I'm telling you this because Dionisio in Tamaulipas denounced that he was extorted and taken out of his business. He had to abandon his very few patrimony that he had and had to go to Texas to live. And up to date, there's been denouncement, evidence, and nobody has said anything. And this casino convention is coming in on March. And with this, is there a green light then on the obtaining of licenses so that there's more casinos in the country? Well, there shouldn't be any casinos opening. We're not given any permits for that, to open up casinos. That, of course, precisely started with Fox. When he was Secretary of Government, Santiago Krill was Secretary of Government. We haven't given any permits. And I'm going to ask Secretary of Government to give me an information packet, because if there's a new licensing, canceled. Because the instruction is, don't give out any licensing for casinos. And when it comes to the victims, that's another thing. But we're not going to give licensing to casinos. That clear. As we're not giving new concessions to the mining, exploitation of fuel with the fracking, as we're not permitting that there are transgenic corn, transgenic corn. But I'm also going to be looking into what you're mentioning. Are you going to go to these conventions? No. Are you going to be going? No, I'm not going to be going. Rocio Nale is going to be here on Thursday, and Pemex Director Octavio Romero Lopez will explain to you how we're doing on the energetic sector, and they will surely be a part of these acts. I'm going to be in the banking convention in Mérida. It's going to be on Thursday. I'm going to be there in the afternoon in Mérida. And in the next day, Friday, we're going to have the security meeting in Villahermosa and the morning conference. because I'm going to be visiting Dos Bocas and Minatitlan on Friday and on Saturday. And it's good that you mentioned it. On Saturday, it's 18th of March. Everybody will go to El Zócalo.
Nos vamos a congregar en el Zócalo.
We're going to be in El Zócalo.
El 18 de marzo. Les pido a todos
18th of March.
Participen. ...18 de marzo, 5 de la tarde, Zócalo.
5 p.m.
Tenemos que reafirmar.
In El Zócalo. We need to reaffirm our independence, our sovereignty.
Recordar
remind
esa decisión histórica del general
that historical decision of General Cárdenas to recuperate the petroleum
que Porfirio Díaz había entregado,
that Porfirio Díaz had turned in to external companies.
Y que gracias a esa decisión,
and thanks to that decision,
México contó
Mexico has
con petróleo,
oil,
para su independencia económica,
for its economical independence, for its developments.
El petróleo como palanca,
the oil as a lever of the national developments.
Luego,
and then
vinieron malos gobiernos,
bad governments come in, above all these last ones,
que entregaron
that turned in
parte del petróleo, nada más que no les
part
dio
of the
tiempo
petroleum, but they only didn't have enough time
de consumar
to finish their work.
La política entreguista.
The
y se está recuperando
policy of turning in
la soberanía energética.
Everything and giving everything away.
Y eso es
and we're recuperating.
Celebrar el día 18.
And that's what we're going to be celebrating on the 18th.
Y invitamos a todos, aunque volvemos a lo mismo.
And we invite everybody.
Ni modo que los conservadores.
And
cuando se expropió el petróleo,
of course, that when conservatives that were against it,
estuvieron a favor de las empresas extranjeras, ni modo que ellos,
and that were in favor of the external companies, of course, they're not going to be there in El Zócalo.
Mucha gente sí va a asistir.
A lot of people are going to be there.
Aprovecho para invitar.
And I take advantage to invite Saturday.
Nos vemos a las 5 de la tarde.
We'll see each other on 5 p.m.
¿Tienes ya? El domingo regresamos a
On Sunday we'll come back.
El sureste vienen
Southeast legislators on Sunday.
La plática esta,
look at the chat here.
Alto nivel.
A high level chat.
Es que viene, todo viene.
It's all from in the morning, because the first time he threw me out, I was saying that to avoid for the president of the International Day of the Women, the next day, the 9th, Thursday the 9th, the morning will be in the bunker. It's going to be in the bunker. Secretary of Security that is still there, still working. So they go. So they were only speaking about the bunker. So these people in the presidency. Yeah. I'm talking about you. This fascist video where he denounces us, Loret, you and I, that we went with pictures next to Garcia Luna, people that visited the bunker. Doesn't he know that we're reporters? He needs to be well with the president, so he reproduces that. How come he didn't put out any pictures with Lopez Obrador or with any of his functionaries? I've also seen, I don't know, Brad, whoever, and why is he saying that? But he does it as a denouncement, yes. Fascist denouncement, but look at what I answered. Mother of Chapo. Se le cayó the picture, he dropped this picture, but look at how smart he's been taking people's minds, stealing, where supposedly I was in 22 years, and he never took serious and did a career in the 4T from La Mesuelas, and is a person that conducts himself with these idiotic idea that he's from the left wing. But you're right, he's a fascist, a local fascist from the states, miserable, and Mexican society is paying him. The other one day I realized it's about 140,000 Mexican pesos a month. So he does what he does. And he must be behind of that, of the brown nosers that keep sucking into, well, I'm not going to say what, to Lopez Obrador. What a shame. One more time, I'm going to tell you about the greeting of Guzman Loera's mother. We're doing a way that, by the way, needs to, it's almost done, from Badiraguato to Guadalupe y Calvo. Chihuahua, Badiraguato is Sinaloa, and Guadalupe y Calvo is Chihuahua. We're doing that route as another one that we finished, that is from Tamazula, is the limit from Sinaloa with Durango.
Tamazula es Durango. Ahí nació el primer presidente de México.
First president of Mexico was born, Guadalupe Victoria.
Tamazula, Durango. Ese camino va de Tamazula.
That road goes from Tamazula to Canelas. These ways are being done from San Ignacio to Tayotita, Durango as well, because it's a marginalized zone, abandoned completely, and we're working there with programs of well-being. In all that region, the program Sembrando Vida, and we're giving options so that people are not in the necessity to be cultivating marijuana, amapola, the opium plants. That's a whole level. So I'm going to be doing all that supervision in Badiraguato, and in the highest portion, a community that passes through Las Tunas. That's where Guzman Loera's mother, and that's where they're from. So we take off and we're opening the road.
más alta de la
in the
sierra.
highest part of the Sierra.
Los camineros que hacen
The
estas
ways
obras, ¿no?,
that these works are doing
extraordinarias de ingeniería civil.
of civil engineering.
Y vamos hasta allá y nos explican cómo van.
So they're explaining to us how it's been done.
Pues una lona con las mamparas hasta donde se pudo llegar.
This is a location with
se estaba abriendo la sierra, lo más alto.
Where we could get to the highest level. And then there's levels. And then they tell me that Guzman Loredo's mother is there. And that she wanted to speak with me. Because she wanted to give me a letter.
Entonces, ya cuando termina la exposición,
so now that the exposition ends of the roadway,
ya nos subimos a la camioneta.
So we're getting on our trucks.
Y está la camioneta de
and then the truck, the white truck is there.
Le digo, espérate. Le dije,
I tell her, hold on.
Espérate. Me voy a bajar.
I'm going to get off.
Y todo el mundo ahí se quedó, ¿no? Y me bajé. Y la fui.
And I got off, and I went to see her.
Porque es una señora mayor.
Because she's an elderly person.
La saludé y me dio la carta.
I said hi to her, and she gave me the letter. And she told me they're not allowing my daughters
visitar a su hermano,
to visit his brother, their brothers. And I want to ask you if they can go. I can't go see them. And I said, well, I'll see it. I'll see into it, I told her. So what in the letter was that? I said hi, and I left. And that's the great vinculation. Well, the letter was so much so, it was so secret, everything, that I turned it into Secretary of External Relations so that they can get it to the U.S. ambassador. And they answered from the embassy that they were going to give one of the sisters an opportunity so that they could go see him. It was like a paperwork. Well, that's what it was. That's the answer that López Dóriga did.
López Dóriga, ¿no? Ese saludo, como se los estoy explicando.
As I'm explaining to you guys, I don't have anything to be ashamed of. I don't establish any complicity relations with anybody. And that's why I resist. If not, then they would have already stepped on me.
No se puede
You can't participate in a process of transformation without moral authority. Just imagine a mafia. These guys' bosses. These are just speakers.
Los capos de capos del poder económico.
The leaders of the economical power.
Que eran los dueños de México.
That were the owners
a veces,
of Mexico. And sometimes
son más prudentes.
They're a lot more prudent.
De la cúpula,
the ones from the top
que los achichincles.
Than the helpers.
Esos son los que se sienten más,
those are the ones that feel more offended.
Porque los de arriba,
because the ones on top, it's first on top. And
pues, lo único que les preocupa es, a ver,
the only thing that they're worried about up on top
¿Estoy perdiendo dinero?
is that I'm losing money in my businesses.
No.
No.
Ya no estoy ganando lo que ganaba antes.
I'm not earning what I was earning before.
Pero sigo haciendo negocios.
But I'm still doing business.
Y sigo obteniendo
and I'm still obtaining reasonable utility.
Entonces, son más respetuosos.
So they're more respectful.
Pero
but
segundones,
the number twos,
los
the ones that are at service
de los machuchones,
of the top people,
son los más molestos, irritados.
They're the ones that are really pissed.
Son como ciertos sectores, ¿no?, de la clase media.
Certain sectors of middle class.
O los ladinos.
Or the butt kissers, basically.
Abandonan.
That abandon their origins. They complain from their origins.
Y se transforman.
And they transform themselves. And sometimes even
hasta los más soberbios.
They turn into the most strongest
de su clase y de los de
superb
sus culturas.
Against their cultures and their class.
Se avergüenzan, ¿sí?
They're ashamed.
Y se dan baños de pureza y
and they think they're superior and
se sienten,
arrogant.
Yo les llamo de la moronga azul.
Their blood is colored blue. There's a lot of claims that protection equipment, cameras that are in very diverse zones, not only in Mexico City, but in other states, have not been working. And the same, there's a publication where Genaro Villamil publicized a service where he denounced that the company started having success thanks to the contracts that Estado de Mexico Water Company, that also was commissioner of the water company in Peña Nieto. This company turned into a monopoly where only 20 entities worked. This company was the baby of Peña Nieto, also was connected to Genaro Garcia Luna, and through the ones he received millions of pesos in federal contracts, municipal and states contracts, where there's been a lot of complaints and the missing of equipment and overpricing, acts of corruption, frauds of millions that affected the systems of the cameras of C5 in Chihuahua, Sinaloa, as well as the customs office, where also there's a process of hiring in Quintana Roo and Campeche. The majority of these contracts have been given directly for national security, and aside that a lot of the information is reserved for the naturalization of the contracts. It's known of the bad reputation of this company, Seguritech. Mr. President, up until when will we be stopping the hiring of these companies, that there's a lot of corruption and they're still conjoined with Genaro Garcia Luna? Well, that should disappear. All this negotiation with the companies, vigilance, security, Garcia Luna's companies, for example, was dedicated to sell services
entre otras cosas.
Vigilancy services, amongst other things.
Y aparte de que
and aside from
se lavaba dinero,
the money
y había
laundering,
mucha corrupción,
there was a lot of corruption.
Se protegía.
There is protection.
Yo quiero aprovechar que estás
I want to take advantage of the fact that you're talking about that
para enviar a las autoridades
to tell the authorities
de Israel
from Israel
un llamamiento
a call out, a respectful call out,
ellos están
because they're the ones that are protecting
a el señor Cerón,
Mr. Cerón,
que participó en México,
that participated in Mexico
en fabricar
to fabricate
hechos
the supposed
en los
roofs
que desaparecieron
where there were
a jóvenes de Ayotzinapa. Él fue uno de los
Ayotzinapa
que participó en la llamada
students.
verdad histórica.
He was one of the ones that participated on the so-called historical truth about the situation, and had to do with a lot of torturing that was done, and is in Israel protected.
Yo le pido a nuestros amigos de la comunidad judía en México que nos ayuden para informar, para sensibilizar a las autoridades de Israel.
I asked the authorities of Israel
se proceda,
and that we can proceed with conformity to the law,
y que aunque no exista
and that even if
un convenio de extradición,
there's no agreement of extraditing him,
buscar un mecanismo
we
para
can find a mechanism to
este señor, como lo está solicitando la Fiscalía de México,
this guy as the
sea enviado
District
a
Attorney
nuestro país.
Attorney General office is being asked so that he can be brought back in.
Tiene que ver
This, of course,
también
has to do with
con la mala práctica de hacer negocios
the bad practice of doing business with
con venta de tecnología
selling of technology
sin ética,
without ethics,
poniendo por delante el interés de lucro. El gobierno de Israel no puede
government of Israel
sin ética. Poniendo por delante el interés de lucro.
The lucrative interest in front.
El gobierno de Israel no puede
Israel government cannot give protection
a un torturador,
to a torturer.
Ningún gobierno puede. Sí.
Yes, so
que están protegidos,
the ones that are protected
o que se fueron para allá, pero
or that went over there,
nosotros lo
but
que más nos importa,
for
se
us,
trata
what's
de
most
aclarar
important for us,
lo
because it's
sucedido
meant
con los jóvenes
to clarify
de
what
Ayotzinapa,
happened in Ayotzinapa,
que es un compromiso que tenemos,
that's a compromise that we have,
y ya ha pasado mucho tiempo, le
and
envío
we've
una carta al
already
ministro
had a lot of time. I sent a letter to the Minister of Israel
de la Fiscalía,
and people from the
bueno, fue hasta el subsecretario de Gobernación,
Attorney General and Subsecretary of Government. It's been a year now,
y no hay respuesta.
and there's no response.
Entonces, ojalá
and so hopefully
esta petición,
this petition gets tended to,
y lo hacemos con mucho respeto, pero que
and that amongst authorities that we need to maintain relations of friendship, assist so that the human rights are not violated, so that there's a punishment to those who violate human rights. Never again to the violations of human rights.
Jorge Díaz de Ensenada, Baja California, del canal 73.
Jorge Díaz.
Una vez más les agradezco la atención y le quiero yo comentar, presidente.
I want to ask you, Mr. President, that we are still, I'm going to be concrete on what I'm going to explain to you to wait for a response on your part. There are two savings accounts for the retired and the social dependency, and one of these is called Ahorro Magisterial AC, where there's 16 million pesos there, and the teachers are perishing, and there's 120 masters. This is a Benito Juarez conjoint where there's a debt of 16 million pesos. There's a lot of teachers that I've explained to you to do this type of, to inform how to resolve and tend to the situation. This magistrate that are retired teachers that they serve for 30 years, there's more than 1,185 teachers, and they have not been able to be retired on that sense. And Lina de Cedros, every time that I come here and commented you in Isla de Cedros, where you have been invited, the basic food costs, combustibles, they are asking you for a cheaper way to commute, almost like a ferry. And this important subject that in February I told you about the vehicles from the US, a decree where there's been a lot of beneficiaries, and Secretary of Security and Rosicela commented, and Mr. Jesus Ramirez that took care of us. This subject that you signed in October, and it was commented about the agreement that was finishing on March. I'm asking if we're going to be able to enlarge those laws of the vehicles that came in before 16th of October, because there's a lot of vehicles that the series start with letters. There's people that are working. They're not luxury or sport. They're vehicles that are being circulated in the U.S. And aside with that, and the regularization of these vehicles, but in Ensenada, I don't want to give these types of commentaries. I live there, as many other people do, where the city is destroyed. I want to thank Javier that has been receiving the instructions from Secretary for their instructions, pictures to see where that money went, and not only that, in 33 realm, 23, and in the agreements in between the states where somebody goes over and recommends their registration for the vehicles. There's a lot of roads that need assistance, and there's two things that we still haven't gotten an answer to. And from ESTE, what can I tell you about ESTE? ESTE in Rosarito, there is not even one medical location. The ones that live in Rosarito have to go to Tijuana and what we've heard here, the time that it takes to get an appointment. Also there, you went to San Quintin and you did a compromise, and even a fixing of the road from Chapultepec to Maniadero. And I think the conclusion of Tren Maya is going to be finishing instead of this road that is 6 kilometers. I want to ask you, Mr. President, to fast track this, and why hasn't this been done? 6 linear kilometers, and you have circulated in the scenic road from Tijuana to Ensenada, and I know you've liked it, and it's a seismic road location, and we're looking for and I'm sorry that I'm telling you about this, as you said before, is to try to help the people. And the theme about the railway members and in Campeche and Yucatan, that they gave their retiring money in half, and the rest of the money they don't know where it is. And I'm sorry for this exposition. And now that the IMSS, Señor Zoe Robledo, to whom that I have the pleasure of talking to, a specialty hospital opening in Ensenada. Look at one thing. Yesterday that I was fixing my questioning, there's a picture where there's a public phone and Clinica, in Medical Clinic 32, and I went to ask the director, they put 2 pages, so at 3 a.m. they're putting the name to 10 to 30 people. I think it's inhumane. We need to be humane. We need to help. At 3 in the morning, they're putting for 30 people. They have to be there to put their name, and taking advantage of the health subjects that Pilar, where there's been looking for to sanction the fake medical specialties. There's very many cases, and I don't see that COFEPRIS, federal COFEPRIS, is. That's what I want to ask you, Mr. President. Are we going to have a decree? Because, in fact, in Baja California, before, you would get licensing where you can only drive around in the States to avoid that type of thing where they would sell, but they would stop that. Thank you very much. On Tuesday of next week, we're going to have the Security Cabinet reunion here. We're going to be informing, and Rosa Isela will be informing us about how the regularization program is on Wednesday, I'm sorry, because Monday we're going to be in Chiapas, and on Tuesday in Oaxaca, and Wednesday here. And the information of security is going to be on Wednesday of next week. And Rosa Isela will be informing, and they're going to bring you an answer about what you're planting. We're going to be asking Maria del Pilar, as well as Secretary of Education, about the situation of the teachers. Jorge Nuño is taking note of the fixing of the road that you're mentioning. And we're going to be looking for ESTE on response about the services in Rosarito. And here's Zoe. So he can take care of you as well. Everything that you spoke about. Then when you come back, we'll hope that now you can tell us this, that this has been taken care of, and we got to keep working. I thank you that the people in Baja California, the results that we've been getting, thanks to you. Yes, and the governor is really good. Marina del Pilar is really good. The initiative that she presented of the charlatan medics and the sector, that they can be involved a little bit more. All right. All right, so I guess that
son cuentas claras y chocolate espeso.
So true numbers and thick chocolate, he says. You'll be here tomorrow. And I'll take care of you tomorrow. But we have tomorrow we'll continue. All right, so they really want to keep talking, but Mr. President is really not gonna be working anymore. Gracias a todas y a todos por estar con nosotros nuevamente en este día. Nos vemos mañana con más de la conferencia de prensa del día de López Obrador. Gracias y a todos nuestros invitados especiales que siempre de mucho corazón están con nosotros, siempre acompañándonos. Eric Suárez, Michael López, Arturo Solís, Joselín Velázquez, Lorena Salazar, Gilbert ESP y Carlos Córdoba. Y claro, también Daniel Andrade, creo que no lo mencioné. Gracias, amigas y amigos, a todas mis compañeras que siempre nos están acompañando, Jennifer, Ana, tenemos también a Miriam, y a todas y a todos ustedes que siempre están con nosotros. Gracias, cuídense. Un servidor Ángel Ramírez para todos ustedes y AZTECRON Entertainment para México for You. Hasta mañana.